Trusting God is not always the easiest thing. Today, I want to talk about what it looks like to trust God in those moments where it's really difficult to trust God. So if you're not subscribed, I post videos like this every week. So if that's something that interests you, hit the subscribe button and yeah, let's get started. So I went to New Zealand for a semester back in 2018. And while I was there, I got the opportunity to go kayaking down the river. And so before we did that, we spent a few days learning how to kayak on flat water, learning how to flip ourselves over in a pool, because you got like the spray skirt on your kayak that keeps you in your kayak, and so you have to learn to flip yourself over with your paddle. And so we learned how to do that. We learned how to control our kayaks, all that kind of stuff. And here's the thing. I have a deep-rooted fear of kayaking, and I realized this while I was out there. It sounds kind of ridiculous, but I think it all started, my parents came back from a vacation in like Mexico or something when I was a lot younger, and they were talking about kayaking. And as they described this idea of being trapped in a kayak, held in by your spray skirt, even if it flips over, I decided then and there that kayaking had to be the most terrifying thing on this planet. And apparently that deep-rooted fear followed me to New Zealand. And here's the thing, flipping yourself over in a kayak requires a lot of skill, requires a lot of technique and practice. I could kind of get it when we were practicing in a pool, but there's no chance that I'd be able to do it actually out in the river, out in the rapids. And so what that meant was if I flipped over as I was kayaking, I was supposed to take a deep breath, wrap my arms around my kayak, and wait for my instructor to paddle over, and he would slap his paddle on the top of the kayak, and then he would flip me over. When it comes to trusting God, it's something that we can grasp intellectually. In theory, we know that we're supposed to trust him. We know he's capable of protecting us. When I was kayaking, because I was so inexperienced, as I kind of mentioned, I was forced to trust my instructor. I couldn't flip myself over, so I was supposed to trust that he would come and flip me. You see, each kayak has a little eject strap that you can pull and get out of the kayak. Problem is, if you do this, your kayak fills with water and you have to swim with it over to the side, empty out the water, and there's always a risk that it can, keep floating down the river without you, which would obviously not be good. And so this is why you're not supposed to pull that eject strap unless you absolutely have to, but instead wait for your instructor to come and flip you over. But this is one of those things that I just couldn't wrap my head around. My fear in the moment would outweigh my trust in the instructor. I could grasp that concept intellectually that I was supposed to trust my instructor to come and flip me over. I understood the logic in it. I knew it wasn't that I didn't think he was capable of flipping me. I knew he was perfectly capable of flipping me over. And in my head, I knew that he would be there to flip me over, but in the moment, I just wouldn't be able to hold my breath. Anytime I flipped over, I would panic, I would start freaking out, thinking I was going to drown or hit my head or something. And you're underwater, so it's not like you can see the instructor coming for you. You just have to blindly trust that they're coming down the river after you as you're going down these rapids. And sometimes this is a lot like how it feels to trust God. In theory, we know we're supposed to trust him. We know that he's capable of protecting us. We've heard that message over and over again. But in the moment, when terrible things are happening, when life is just not going the way we want it to, when we're so overcome by fear, we're just not able to trust wholeheartedly in God, and we're not able to give him control and trust that he's protecting us. For some of you, your kayak's upside down right now. And I don't mean literally, maybe, but metaphorically speaking, your kayak's upside down. You're trying to hold your breath. You're trying to wait for God, but you just don't think you can do it anymore. And those are the moments where it is really, truly hard to trust God. Scripture tells us that we need to trust God. We know this to be true. And you know what? It's really easy to do when our kayaks are upright. we're still in the rapids of life. We acknowledge that we're gonna need some protection as we're, going down this metaphorical river of life. But as long as our kayak remains upright, like, we're good. Like, trusting in God is easy. It's easy for us to tell other people to trust in God, but then our kayak flips. And that's when the rubber hits the road. That's when our trust in God is really put to the test. And we have to believe that He is there, like He promises. We have to blindly trust that even in those moments, He is still there. He hasn't abandoned us. He hasn't left us to drown. He's there. As we grow in our affection for God, our love for Him, we start to trust Him more. It becomes easier to trust Him in these moments of our kayak being upside down. But it's still so hard. As we spend time dwelling in His presence, though, it does become easier to rely on Him. But yeah, that's all I got for this video. I want this to be an encouragement for those of you who are maybe having a really hard time trusting God in whatever season of life you might find yourself. But also a reminder that God is there, that He is protecting us. But you know what? It is hard to trust Him sometimes. And we really do have to be constantly reminding ourselves that He is there for us, that He hasn't left us, that He is protecting us. And so yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.